Welcome back to Cinema Surfer. We're here with a new video this week, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. Instead of focusing on a typical movie or film review, I thought, let me give you guys some insight into one of my secret talents. And if you didn't know this about me, I'm a pretty good artist. So even though I've never taken an art class or anything like that, I spend a lot of my free time drawing. About 2 to 3 years ago, one of my friends actually mentioned, man, your art's really good. You should do something with it. So with that info being said, here's a link to my digital art store, which is fun. People love looking at stuff and buying things all the time. I'll post a link right here, but at the same time, the link's also in the channel description. You can take my art prints and make them into stickers, t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, you name it. It's all available. So feel free to take a gander and let me know what you think. But today, I want to focus on a how to draw video. One of the coolest things that anybody can learn how to draw is Spider-Man, right? Everybody loves Spider-Man. Who does it? Make sure you have your paper, your pencil ready. The video is a time lapse, so it's a little bit quick. If you ever need to slow it down, feel free to do so. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'm gonna go ahead and teach you how to draw this guy in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So one of the first things I always try to do when I'm drawing any character is map out where I want them on the page. Spider-Man's kind of fun because you can draw him in these crazy dynamic poses. I actually saw a production image of the new Spider-Man movie coming out, Brand New Day, and it was someone, I don't know if it was Tom Holland or a stunt double, in a Spider-Man suit doing this crazy jump with his arms spread out like that. And I was like, man, that would be really cool and fun to draw. And it's also kind of challenging as well. That's another thing with drawing. Always challenge yourself. The more you draw easy things, you're not really gonna get better, you're just gonna stay kind of stagnant. With Spider-Man in this type of pose, it kind of reminds me of an old comic book saying. People used to say, if you're not drawing Spider-Man doing something crazy and dynamic on the page, then you're not really drawing that character properly. He should always be jumping or swinging or doing something that feels a little bit more three-dimensional. For three-dimensional perspectives, you can see I wanted to put his arms in the background and put his legs in the foreground, which kind of gives the picture some depth as well. Another thing with Spider-Man is his lenses. People draw the eyes in different ways. Some people like to be, you know, super over-exaggerated with them. When you think about Todd McFarlane from the 90s, he drew Spider-Man with like these really big eyes that took up the whole mask. I kind of like what they're doing in the MCU. It feels more of like a 70s Spider-Man style, where he has the bigger lenses, but the right parts of the lenses are kind of smaller, more like sunglasses a little bit. It just feels more realistic that way. So that's typically how I draw this character. The reb lines are also something that people struggle with because if you do the reb lines the wrong way, something about the picture just always feels a little bit off or uncanny. My perspective with the reb lines, once you have his anatomy mapped out, always do the body first, then add the rebs later, is if you remember on the face, they always start at the nose section with a circle. For the upper part of the mask, you draw odd numbers of lines going up, and then for the bottom half of the mask, you want to draw even numbers of lines going down. And the same idea goes for the red pattern on his body. Start with vertical lines down the middle of the chest, and then the lines that go from his neck down to his arms, all the way down to his fingers, those are a little bit more vertical as well. But something else, as you can see in the picture, is I didn't want this to look too comic booky because it was based on a reference photo from real life. So when you draw something in real life, you don't want to do a lot of hard lines or outlines on the picture. That's something I notice a lot of younger artists typically struggle with, is when they first start drawing, they draw really hard lines. Don't do that, because what happens if you have to make a mistake, right? Or you want to go back and change or edit something? Start with softer lines first, and then towards the end of your drawing process is when you incorporate the harder lines. Another thing to go over right now is lighting and shadows. So the only way you can really understand lighting is you just have to look at things a lot in real life and, you know, really take pause and stop and think about how does lighting affect things when it hits them from different angles. In this case, I wanted the light source to kind of hit Spider-Man on the back of his head. Now, if you're thinking about this logically, if the light is hitting the back of his head, that means, you know, almost everything else on his back is going to be, you know, enlightened, but the front of his suit probably won't have a lot of light to it, which is why, you know, you can see the light source there, but you also have to incorporate it on like the top of his shoulders and maybe a little bit on the arms as well, because the light is hitting him from the back end. So that should make sense a little bit. Same thing when it comes to adding shadows. Sometimes if you add too many shadows in random places, it just makes your picture look off. For this one, I just like to think about the pose he's in. If his chest is outward and his legs are also outward, that means his tummy area should have a little bit more shadows as well. And the same thing for the areas under his arms and on the bottom of his thighs as well, if the calves are kind of sticking in front of them. Just think about it in that perspective, and it should make it a little bit easier to understand the concept of lighting and shadows. Something else that's fun with Spider-Man is, compared to a lot of other characters, you're pretty much just practicing human anatomy over and over again, because he doesn't have a lot of pouches or straps or weapons like Deadpool or some other character does. You're just drawing a person, right? How does the body look? Because he's really just wearing spandex. When it comes to spandex, one thing that's kind of fun with Spider-Man is, especially the blue sections of his suit, is it has that like elasticy metal look sometimes, especially in certain lighting sources. So with this one, as you can see, I started with a darker blue for the underarm area and then added some little blue lines to help give it that metallic sheen look that you sometimes see with the live action Spider-Man suits. The spider is also another fun thing to incorporate on the suit as well. People draw the spider in different ways. For this one, I try to keep it more like the production image I saw, because it was kind of based on the movie. But there's different ways you can draw the spider. Sometimes I like drawing it like it used to look in the 70s, when it was like this big fat black spider and it had like the little small rectangular lines for legs. That's always a fun one to do. It just feels very comic booky, and I like that version. Or you can do it this way, where it's more angular and it looks like it was, you know, designed by a professional graphic designer. It doesn't really matter. Add your own interpretation to it. That's what makes art fun. So as you can see, once I had the upper body kind of mapped out, what I wanted to do next was focus on the lighting of the legs and the lenses. Most of the time when you see Spider-Man in the comic books, artists don't really give him a lot of dimension with his lenses on his eyes, mostly because, you know, they're kind of rushed on time and they have to do so many pages a day, so they don't have time to add those details. When you're drawing something like this, feel free to add those dimensions to your drawing. It makes it feel a little bit more like it's alive, as opposed to just being very stagnant and flat. The legs was also something I tried to incorporate some more shadows and lighting to. I'll be honest, this one was really a challenge for me, especially because they're kind of at that awkward angle coming forward in front of the rest of his body. If you ever make a mistake with lighting and shadows, that's cool. Go back and change things. The more you do it, the better you're gonna get. As you can see, I had to go back and change things and you know, change perspectives on his legs a little bit here and there until I got it to an area where I felt like, okay, this matches the rest of the drawing. But as you can see, something else I did on the top half is I incorporated the rest of those web lines on the top. And then once I have those mapped in, I can kind of start to, you know, decide what do I want to do in the background of this image. I liked going with the green background for this one because it just kind of helped break up the drawing a little bit. And if I have a white background overall on the rest of the page and Spider-Man's being backlit with white light, you need something in the middle of the blank canvas and the Spider-Man, so the green added an extra dynamic to the picture. Plus it was just kind of cool and fun to look at. It's a lot of talking, but it's going good. All right, after all that, you know, with the web lines on the boots, it's a very similar pattern. Once you have the anatomy of the leg shape you want to use, just draw the lines vertically first and then add the little swoops afterwards. That's another thing people struggle with when it comes to drawing Spider-Man. They don't always draw the little web swoops in the same pattern. Most of the time they go upward this way, like little M's, and you have to do that across the whole suit. But once you have that, that's pretty much it. One of the last things you can see is I put the little web shooters on the bottom of his arms as well. It was just something fun that you don't always see in the comic books, but you see a lot in live action. And then overall, here's the finished picture, okay? So it came out pretty cool. Hopefully you were able to follow along as we did this. If it was a little bit too quick for you, that's fine. Go back and rewind the video or slow down the pace a little bit. It's cool. It's your video. Do what you want to with it. But with all that being said, hopefully this was some helpful insight into drawing Spider-Man. I love to draw, and like I said at the beginning of the video, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So don't forget, I do have a link to my art store if you ever want to take a gander at any of those different prints that I have. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what character you want to watch me draw next, and hopefully I can make a how-to video to show you how to draw them as well. Peace out.